Hello. Today is Friday, March 6th. Welcome to episode 566 of Fault Lines, the National Security Institute's podcast that gets you quickly up to speed 3 times a week on the national security and foreign policy debate shaking up America. I'm NSI Advisory Board member Lester Munson. I'm joined today by senior fellows Morgan Vigna and Joshua Huminski and fellow Algene Sajari. Folks, it's day 7 of the U.S. and Israeli war on Iran, or at least the current iteration of that. There's a lot of stuff in the news. This is the dominant story in the national security space. It's the 3rd time this week we've talked about it. There's a lot of things to cover, a lot of developments. Iran has struck at Cyprus, Turkey, and Azerbaijan unexpectedly. It is in addition to striking at Sunni Arab states in the region, obviously in an effort to expand the conflict to include other countries. That seems to be working against Iran in that most countries are moving towards the U.S.-Israeli alliance against Iran, including, I would even say, governments in Western Europe that were initially very hesitant to become involved now seem to be moving towards Washington on this question. So there's a lot to discuss. Joshua, you highlighted something in our chat as we were getting ready to do this podcast. Do you want to expound on that?
Yeah, according to U.S. intelligence reports, as recounted in the Washington Post today, it appears that Russia is providing Iran with targeting information to help facilitate their drone and ballistic missile strikes in the region, which is a notable escalation, not without precedent. The Russians were providing intelligence information to the Houthis and their strikes along the Red Sea, as well as having provided intelligence support to the Taliban. But this is a further indication of the possibility of Russia's horizontal escalation of their activities from Ukraine, but also to Iran, showing that this is the first entry of an American adversary into this conflict beyond the region. So it is an interesting development. We'll have to see how that plays out.
And Joshua, did I see this correctly that Ukraine has offered to be of assistance to the U.S. and Israeli side, particularly on these drone questions?
Yes, it is a further connection, as you see, of the Euro-Atlantic and sort of the Indo-Pacific, at least the Southwest Asian portion of the Indo-Pacific theater and of the Middle East. And Ukraine has a great deal of expertise in taking down these Shahed drones and intercepting ballistic and cruise missiles. So for a potential source of defense innovation and technology, Ukraine is going to potentially provide assistance to the region, which is certainly needed.
Morgan, do you want to talk about kind of the recent developments in the Middle East itself, in the region, and some of the implications that we're seeing for maybe future partnerships?
Les, you talked a little bit about in the introduction about the regional implications of this and how Iran is striking out against its neighbors, Sunni partners, and how European countries are perhaps slowly coming around to support the United States in very small but meaningful ways. I think it's important to note that since this war started, Iran has launched 1,700 drone attacks, about 850 ballistic missiles at its neighbors, 49% of which have headed towards the UAE. So this is, needless to say, these Arab Sunni countries have not necessarily been Iran's greatest fans, but at the same time, they were reluctant to be drawn into a war. That is indeed the case at this point. And so they are definitely choosing sides. Their militaries are activated, and they're working with the United States to ensure that their major infrastructure targets, including military and civilian, are protected. I will note, Joshua's point, yes, the Ukrainians have been battle tested and are very experienced in this space. Many U.S. companies in particular that have tested and developed their drones on the Ukrainian front lines have also been called upon to support this war effort. And so I think it's important that our defense industrial base is activated, that the Department of War ensure that the DIB is given the resources and the flexibility to be able to deliver on those commitments.
Great. Algene, I know you want to kind of talk about something slightly different than the rest of us, although, of course, as pertinent as all of this, please.
Yeah, I really appreciate the debate on the geopolitical, regional security, national security impacts of this conflict, of this war. But I want to highlight something that I don't think that gets lost in the debate, and that's the impact of the war on civilians and the human impact, particularly on the children. You know, whether it's the child of an American service member who lost their mom or dad to, in an Iranian counterstrike in the region, or an Iranian child who witnessed their classmates being killed as a bomb sort of ripped through their school. It's a very devastating and lasting impact that this war will have on the children that are impacted. And so I really want to talk about that because we do have a really wonderful debate every episode this week on the national security implications of the war, but we really can't forget the human cost of the war. As a child of war myself, I feel obligated to talk about this. I will never forget the moment my house was bombed when I was 3 years old in Liberia. And I think every single moment since, it's impacted my life. And so that experience informed every aspect of my life, including the work that I do here with you all. And so I think it's important to remember that. And also, I think that's why, our founding fathers really put into place this constitution that really takes into consideration the views of the American people through Congress declaring war. And so, these important votes on the war powers resolutions were really interesting. I think, we don't want to lose that perspective because the human impact of war is real, it is profound, and democracies really should never go to war on a gut feeling. The White House is yet to give one shred of evidence of the imminent danger that led to the president's decision to strike Iran. And, obviously, we all can agree, we certainly have no love lost for the Ayatollah. Very happy that he is gone. But we really, really need to think carefully about um, through the plan going forward on the ripple effects, how to deal with that to mitigate those impact on the children. I mean, one of the rationale that the White House gave for this war was the Ayatollah, persecuting, killing protesters, et cetera, the Iranian people. We really should be thinking about the people as we consider the next steps in this war. So I just wanted to highlight that aspect because I think it's something that really gets lost in the debate.
Algene, a lot of great points in there. I'm not sure I agree with every single one, but in the big picture, the human cost of war is profound, and it should always be last resort. And I think it's a great reminder of the seriousness of the news that we're all digesting these days. And I do want to kind of pivot a little bit to something you mentioned, the votes in Congress this week. Both the Senate and the House voted down resolutions that disapproved of the war. And those resolutions came forward under the War Powers Resolution law of that goes back to 1973, which was a response to Vietnam, of course. It became law over President Nixon's veto, interestingly. And both the Senate and the House both voted down these disapproval resolutions by very close margins. But there were Democrats who voted in both bodies against disapproving the war. Not a lot, very few in each case, but still a bipartisan vote. And effectively, in my mind at least, that's a approval from Congress in the actions the administration has taken. There's a little bit of irony there in that using the War Powers resolution to effectively give congressional approval, even though it's a little backwards because it's a double negative, I don't think was the intent of Senator Kane and Congressman Khanna, but that's effectively what happened, at least in my mind. So some very interesting developments on the domestic politics. Okay, that's a wrap. Thanks always to Kelly Crowley, Claude Jennings, and the NSI staff for their help in producing today's episode. Join us on Monday, March 9th for another episode of Fault Lines, the National Security Institute's podcast that gets you smart fast on the national security and foreign policy debate shaking up America. We're on YouTube. Check out our channel there for a video of today's episode. If you like what you heard or saw, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe.